This is Anime Shin. Are you ready?
Hello, friends, and welcome to Anime Shin, where we try to make anime accessible. Today, we're continuing our look at Steins Gate. We are doing episodes 8 through 13. If you haven't watched our previous episode, go watch that first, because we're talking about the opening 7 episodes of the Steins Gate TV show. So the first thing we're going to do here is our rating. So, Blake, you want to do the Gen Pon meh?
Will you recommend this to us? First comes Rock, John Ken Pon.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
First comes Rock, John Ken Pon.
Okay, I stayed with 4. It was a little tough, though.
I also went with 4. 4 means we are likely to recommend this to our friends, family, and even subscriber Bob. Bob, thank you for watching. We really appreciate it.
Is that his name? I was wondering.
Yeah, that's Bob. He is a super cool dude out there in TV land.
Yeah, he's great.
So yeah, that means we are likely to recommend these episodes like we did the first 7. Frankly, I think once you've experienced a show, it'll probably remain pretty consistent throughout.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe the ending, the last episodes have a higher likelihood to change, or maybe if there's a boring part in the middle, that type of thing.
Yeah, and generally speaking with episodes or television series, it's season from season, not episode to episode, that you'll see the biggest changes.
Let's talk about what Steins Gate episodes 8 through 13, all of those episodes, what are they about? Merve, take it away.
It is necessary to set the record straight regarding our tale. You must study this series of events. You may find more. You may not.
Okay, well, in the last...
Maybe you'd never notice this, maybe you would, but if my recording seems a little off in any way today, it's actually because I had to go back and re-record all of my lines, which has been quite the endeavor of acting so far. You may even hear my family banging around upstairs and having fun, and that's why we usually record at night, because everyone's sleeping. Or you may notice my amazing bedhead hairdo. I started with a hat. Anyway, what happened was we use earbuds to hear each other when we record, and my PC decided that it wanted to use the earbuds to record my voice.
Loading nosebleed.
It just sounds terrible. So Bob, for you, and if anyone else watches this, I love you so much that I went back and did these re-records so that you could have a better experience. So I really hope you enjoy the show.
At the end of the last episode, we found out that Ocarine is a special person.
Drug dealer.
Is he a drug dealer? I might have missed that.
Drug dealer, take 4. He's a drug dealer. That dude is a drug dealer. Drug dealer? Drug dealer. He's a drug dealer. He's a drug dealer. That man is a drug dealer. And that dude sells drugs because he's a drug dealer. Drug dealer. Boop, boop, boo, do, 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 do. Drug dealer.
I'll take everything you say literally because I feel like I miss a lot of stuff.
No, he's not a drug dealer. That's just jokes. No, not actually a drug dealer. Drug dealer, he is not. Not at all. I can see why you would think that. Because I'm a very trustworthy person. And most people trust the words I say with my mouth parts.
But we find out he's a special person with a special power that when the world lines change, the timelines shift, he retains his memory, while other people, if they're conflicting memories, they lose whatever memories conflict and only remember what happened on the current world line that they're on. So they test out the D-mail again with a lottery, and we find out that Rokuka, they say their names 10 different times every Roka. So it's not my fault, is what I'm saying. But it's mostly my fault. But
I don't have her. Oh, it's Ruka.
Well, right, but that's what Mayori calls her, but she's the only one that calls her Ruka, I think. Everyone else calls her Rokuka.
It's Ruka. That's Ruka.
I think it's a shortened. I think it's Rokuka, but they call her Roka for short. They just drop out the ku. I don't know. Anyway, they sent her a D-mail to play the lottery, and she mixed up some numbers, so they got it wrong, so they didn't win the lottery, which I think is like a little nod to the timeline not shifting really far, because that would be more than 1% probably of them winning the lottery. And so we kind of go through a couple characters doing D-mails. Moika, again, this is a kind of a problem. Mayori, Moika, and Makasi are all characters, 3 different characters. Moika does a D-mail, which again is sending a text message back in time. For those of you who didn't watch it or didn't watch the first episode of ours, which you should do before watching this one, sends a D-mail back, and she doesn't, I feel like, and now I'm speculating here, doesn't tell them the truth. She says she wants to send a D-mail back 3 days so she doesn't buy the phone she doesn't like. And then she disappears, and in the next world line they're in, none of the characters except for Ocarine remembers Moika. Then Ruka wants to send a D-mail back to her mom, and they have to send it to a pager because cell phones weren't invented when Roka was born, and she wants to tell her mom to eat vegetables so that she can become a girl. And when that D-mail is sent, they come back and they find out the IBN 5100 is gone. And it's either from, I don't think it's super clear if it's from the Roku change or if it's from Moika's D-mail. But now everyone remembers Moika, so there's a different world line. Then Ferris does a D-mail. She won't tell them what the D-mail is about, but it seems to be about her father, and the whole city changes. And this is where a kind of tension rises, because Ocarine starts to realize that they can really change things. Finally, Suzuka. Is that right? Suzuna?
Suzuka? Are you talking about Silverfinger?
No, that's Moika. Yeah, Silverfingers. Suzuna is part-time girl. They do a little backstory of Ocarine having a fever around the year 2000. And then a little tidbit of that I kind of liked of future gadgets. Like, oh, here's this humidifier that can make a smoke screen, and this vacuum that can do a thing to kind of set up future payoffs.
Oh, okay. You're talking about Suzuha. Suzuha is the name. Yeah.
Oh, Suzuha? Okay, my N's and H's, I write in comic book font, so my N's and H's kind of look the same.
Oh, that broke the connection. Oh.
Yes. Am I back? Okay. When that happens, I'll try to keep talking because I don't think it matters. I mean, it helps for you to hear, but
otherwise I just start making up what you said, and that could be bad. For sure.
What did we decide her name was? Suzuha?
It's like Suzuki, but instead of the key, it's like ha, as in ha ha ha.
Okay, Suzuha. And then a laugh, like a laugh. So they're going to have a party for her because she's trying to meet up with her father, who she has never met. And they're going to have a party for her either way. If they meet her If she meets her father, then they'll have a party like, hooray, you met your father. If she doesn't, they'll have a consolation, like, goodbye party, because she's gonna leave. So it turns out she doesn't send the D-mail because she doesn't have her father's contact information. This is after another D-mail is sent. Ocarine sends one to himself because Suzuha ends up missing, and so he sends one to himself to tail her so he can find her, and he finds her and they go to a party. There's another little beat where they discover the TV downstairs is the lifter for their time machine. We're kind of seeing some rising stakes as these D-mails go through. They get a little more, they start to change things more and more. And then we find this TV is the lifter, which allows them to kind of move forward and find a new way to send stuff back in time. And the new way is memories. They need some stuff so that they can take your brain memories from the last 48 hours or send it somewhere back in time. So you kind of travel back in time, but only your memories. It's as confusing as I'm making it sound. Suzuha then kind of adds to the stakes by saying Christina or Makizi or assistant works for CERN.
Makise,
whatever. The only reason I know that one is because it's written on the pudding.
Or you could just say Christina. People would know what that meant. For sure.
Yeah, that's probably true, but that's not her real name, so it feels a little disrespectful.
But it's funny.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. So that raises the stakes a little bit. And then we get this background of Christina's about her dad and the rivalry they have as physicists. And then to make the stakes go a little bit more, Ocarine starts getting texts that are from nobody that just say, you know too much, or we're watching you, and like a bloody doll head. And so he decides to go public. He doesn't tell anybody about these texts, but he decides to go public with everything they know. And when he decides to do that, CERN busts in. Moika is working with them at this point, and they spoilers, I guess. Can you have spoilers in a time travel show? Mayori gets
pizza,
and the other ones get captured. So without testing, Ocarine sends his memories back in time, and we get a Groundhog Day effect where he keeps trying to save Mayori, but she keeps
pizza party
different ways over the next 2 episodes. The end of this episode and the next episode, while he's trying to save her. As I was reading, and I was thinking I should have went a little more broad.
No way. No way. No way at all. Yes. Yes way. Yes way at all. No. But yes. All right, here's my version of what happens in Steins Gate Season 1, Episodes 8 through 13. We've established that the future gadget laboratory can send text messages back to people in the past, and they call this D-mail. The D-mails change the world line that they're on. This involves the many worlds theory, the multiverse, etc. Every decision that is changed due to D-mail changes the world line that they are on. And Halloween is a traveler because he retains the memories, or his memories, from the old world line that he was just on prior to that D-mail being sent. A D-mail gets sent, Halloween finds himself on a new world line, everyone else around him has been in that world line all along, and he's playing catch up and trying to figure out what has changed. So for example, a D-mail gets sent back saying, eat more vegetables, and it causes a butterfly effect that not only changes the gender of someone, but also changes a bunch of other things as well. If you're unfamiliar with the concept of the butterfly effect, it's a cumulative large effect that a very small natural force produces over time. So a butterfly flaps its wings on the other side of the planet, and through a series of events, it causes a flood somewhere. So a very small event causing a cumulatively large event somewhere else. Like in episode 9, after D-Mail, Halloween starts talking to Daru about having deciphered the IBN 5100. Daru and the rest of the team look really confused at this point because they don't have a 5100 on this world line. They never have, and they haven't deciphered it, which is different than the world line Halloween had traveled from, where they did have one and had deciphered it. But the unintended consequence of the butterfly effect in this world line, they didn't get the 5100. Then things really ramp up and they start talking about sending memories back to your previous self. And if you think about it, this is effectively time travel. If I am my memories and experiences, this is time travel. Sending my memories back to Blake from 2 days ago. And that guy's pretty weird, by the way.
Hey, watch it.
Oh, hi, me from 2 days ago. Sorry about that.
Hello there.
But anyway, it's fun to consider who we are in that way. Are we our memories or are we something else? The gravity of this scares the team, and they're like, I don't know about this. I don't know about it at all. We think we can do it, but it's pretty scare tactical. So they decide to go public with their findings and let someone else deal with it. Once this decision is made, and a little bit further on, Silverfinger, acting as a CERN agent, attacks. She attacks the Future Gadget Laboratory. And I just put on here in my notes, after that, some bad things happen. And because of this, Halloween, in a frantic rush, picks up the headphones they decided to use to send memories back in time, throws them on his head, and sends his memories back to the past to try and fix what happened. At this point, episode 13 ends on a cliffhanger, and that's the end of this series of episodes. Also, there's a bit of a subplot. Suzuha, the bike shop girl, is trying to find her dad. She's like, who is this guy? I don't know, because on this world line, she's never met him. And as a side note, Merv, have you figured out who her dad is yet?
Is it Braun? Because she looks so much like the little girl.
Maybe it seems like something that could be picked up on because I already know. I already have that clairvoyance. And as a testament to this show's rewatchability, there are definitely little breadcrumbs that have been left along the way. Times I'm like, oh yeah, she's going to see if she can catch up with her dad at some place. And there's someone else on the team who is supposed to be at that place. Interesting.
Well, here's we'll get into this is in the diss track, if it's who I think you're talking about.
Okay, but we'll get into it for sure. But to me, that is what Steins Gate episodes 8 through 13 are about. All right, Merv, based on your writing experience, how did they do with Steins Gate episodes 8 through 13?
Regale us with your wit, storyteller.
I think they did really well, and it's kind of what I talked about in my plot summary is what I'd like to talk about here. And stakes are very difficult in a time travel show, movie, book, media. The problem is they can just go back in time and change something. But I think they do a good job here, and a lot of it comes down to the characters and the kind of tension between the characters, like how Suzuha does not like Christina, and we don't really know why, but there's this conflict. If all the characters just like get along and are always friends, it can be very boring. But as the D-mails go down, the stakes do rise and the tension rises, so we get a kind of natural story arc of the tension kind of going up, and we're getting more and more concerned about what's going on, like the whole city changing its culture away from the cat made culture, I suppose, to just a ramen. They just have a ramen place. So that is a nice rising tension, the stakes going up from the D-mail to the memories, and if that can be more dangerous. The stakes going up when Ocarine starts getting those text messages that are coming from we don't know who. And then ultimately the stakes really go up when CERN shows up at the lab. And even before that, they realize they're connected to CERN, but Daru wasn't able to do, the hacker wasn't able to do that at home. So somehow CERN is connected to their computer, and they don't know if they've hacked CERN or CERN has hacked them, or if CERN has let them hack so that they have a connection. Either way, the lab is connected directly to CERN. So all these little things start to rise, and the tension is rising, so we don't have a stagnant, or strangely enough, as I've mentioned in some of our other videos, this is episodic, literally episodic. You're watching an episode and an episode and episode, but there's very well done rising tension. So a lot of times when you watch something, especially a television show, there's a couple different kinds. You have extremely episodic or even serialized, anthologized things like Twilight Zone, where it's like every story is different people. You have that over seasons, like American Horror Story does that every season, is its own story. You have procedurals like NCIS and Castle, or like cop shows where every episode is its own story. You have Game of Thrones, which is an entire series, is one giant story. So you have different kinds of episodic modes, but in a movie, generally an episodic nature is I don't want to say bad. I want to say usually more boring for the viewer. In TV show, we kind of expect an episodic nature, and this is episodic, but it also has a nice rising tension. So we want to watch the next episode. Things are happening that are making us more tense, that we worry more about the characters. And then this particular batch of episodes ends in that very high where Mayori gets
Birthday cake. Nice, I agree. To me, the episodic nature of this, really the episodes are centered around each D-mail that is sent. The impact of this is that it's quite segmented because of it.
Well, you could really I don't want to say ruin a show, but you could really hurt a show by if you went like, oh, they send this D-mail, now they have to fix it. Now they sent another D-mail, now they have to fix it. Now they sent, but in this, what's I think is really cool is that when Moika sends a D-mail, she disappears and no one knows who she is. It's the only time relationships change. And then when Ferris sends her D-mail, it reverses that. So now everyone knows who Moika is again. So there's little things changing back and forth, but it's not like Quantum Leap.
Death is a doorway. We shed one skin and put on another and leap.
Which is a great time travel show where he has to fix this one thing and then we jump again, and there's no between episodes. Every episode is tense and they're all nice stories, but there's not really, even though there's the arc of him having to get home, there's not really rising tension from last week's episode to this week's episode. It's just who's he jumping into this week. For those of you who are under 40, Quantum Leap is a show from the early 90s starring Scott Bakula, where he time travels into people's bodies, has to fix one of their problems, and then jumps into someone new's body.
Yeah, I watched that show too, Quantum Leap. It ran from 1989 until 1993, if anyone is interested. But time travel, yeah, it's often used as an easy fix that ends up breaking everything in a story. Why didn't or don't they just use time travel to fix everything at that point? And the stakes end up going right out the window. So we use time travel like Scott Bakula to go back in time and fix a problem. And from then on, just use that every time. But what's amazing about Steins Gate, I would argue, is the time travel in both ways, the D-mail and sending your memories back, is it really the solution to anything? I don't know, because it's not really fixing something specific so much as it is just changing a bunch of things in a chaotic way, kind of throwing something against the wall and seeing if it sticks, and also hoping it doesn't fall and stain your carpet, and, kind of that butterfly effect, right? And if you think about it, there is a difference there between time travel often being used to fix something very targeted and kind of this butterfly effect way that it's used in Steins Gate. I definitely see a difference there. And I don't remember this specifically, but I think eventually the story will address the question of, are these really fixes that should have happened or needed to happen or not? The butterfly effect is very impactful in this show, similar to how it was in that early 2000s movie.
I don't know what movie.
The butterfly effect, yeah, it was a pretty fun movie.
Oh, with Ashton Kutcher. Yeah, okay. I know. I don't think I've ever seen that. That's not where that term comes from, is it?
The concept of the butterfly effect, no, that's not where the term comes from, but I do believe it's when it entered the cultural zeitgeist in a meaningful way. Similar to how we were talking about the Matrix movie causing simulation theory to stick in everyone's brain pan.
Shot me through me brain pan.
But it does remind me why Steins Gate is on every top anime list as we watch it. It's funny, it's unexpected, and I think most importantly, it subverts expectations in ways that they should be subverted, unlike the way that expectations are quote unquote subverted today. And that rising action you were talking about, Merve, it definitely keeps you interested. And like I said, I love the comedy. The comedy too, I really like that. But now that we've talked about the writing and already gotten into some of the things that we liked, because obviously we both like this.
Yeah, it's hard not to like the plot. Like, it's super interesting. It's very complicated, but it's super interesting.
Well, especially if you're someone who doesn't like how time travel is handled in 90% of stories, where it's just an easy, lazy fix that causes more problems than it solves. If that bothers you, then this is an excellent show to watch. But what about the things you didn't like about these episodes?
So we head into the diss track?
Yeah.
I see you have made your decision. Now let's see you enforce it.
Okay, so this is a very difficult, I assume, an extremely difficult story to write. I, in my youth, actually wrote a story similar to this. It was called Decisions, and in it the conceit was every time you made a decision, it branched off, and you would have two different, I didn't call them world lines, but two different dimensions. It made a new dimension, and in one dimension you made one decision, when you made the other, and one person could hop, the main character could hop these dimensions. And I had to write out the entire timeline for every decision, and I got part of the way in and stopped, which I did a lot when I was young, because it's very difficult to keep track, and the characters are talking about, they're talking about this, but they wouldn't know that, and they wouldn't know. And there were a couple slips in this, I felt like. What's the transgender character's name? Soku? I don't have it written down. I have my list. Okay, Ruka. Okay. And there were a couple slips in this, I felt like. Ruka. Oh, Rokuka. Oh, I already said that a bunch of times. Ruka comes over in a different world line where she didn't apologize for the lotto mishap by bringing a melon over. She stood at the door and walked away. But she says, remember how I brought a melon over the other day? But no one would remember that because she stood outside the door and left. But they all like, oh, okay, yeah, we remember when you brought that melon over. But it's just little things like that, little inconsistencies. And that might be a translation thing. I don't know. Like, it would just been as just as easy, instead of saying, remember how I brought a melon over? Because it was a flashback, so her mouth wasn't moving. She could have just said, the other day I brought a melon over, but I didn't come in.
I thought that's the way I remember it. And maybe it's the Mandela effect, because we are talking about different dimensions and time travel, stuff like that. Because I can tell you, based on a lot of things that are going on culturally right now, I am 100% in the wrong dimension or world line. But that's how I remember it, that she did tell them she was just standing there at the door.
She does tell him that, but she begins that story with, remember how I brought a melon over the other day. And Ocarine remembers, but no one else does. And there's a couple times when people act like they're not in a time machine TV show, I guess. Like Ocarine checks Roku's gender and everyone like gets super mad at him, but no one goes like, wait, did we time leap? Did we, not until the very end. And even then it takes Christina a little bit to go, wait, did you time leap? Like things are going on. So and Ocarine is a strange enough character that maybe you can forgive it, that like the characters are like, why are you being so strange? Because he's just generally strange. But there are times when I'm like, if I'm this person and I at least know that we're doing time travel experiments, that's the first thing I'm going to blame. When he says something or flies off the handle or does something, the first thing I'm going to say is, wait, did we send a D-mail? But most of the time they act like, and it's for a lot of times it's for comedy's sake, but they're not acting what I would say like in character, especially Christina, who is supposed to be the smartest.
Yeah, they never go there. They never think that, well, maybe that's something that was different or changed, even though they're all aware that things are different and things are changing. I saw that as an opportunity as well. And I also have something about the gender check that I will cover in a little bit. But to your point, I think it was played for the cringe factor. But to me, it sat way too long and was too uncomfortable to actually be funny.
You mean that specific one? Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a small one, but in episode 8, there was a very modern Hollywood exposition dump about pagers.
It's my first blind date.
Oh, I do it all the time.
Really? You guys meet? Greg, Janice?
We sure did.
That was stupid.
Great.
This is Smart, an alphanumeric paging service for just $7.99 a month from who else? Smart Beep. Call 1-800-BEEP-199 to find out what all the stink is about.
We've got chemistry here. You feel it?
I felt it.
All right, Janice.
Yes, there is.
It was obtuse, it was long, and it made me feel very, very old. Because this show was made in 2011, or it came out in 2011, and the showrunners thought they had to go that in depth about how pagers work. And now it's a decade later than that. And that's even worse.
But you had a pager.
Yeah, I had some pagers.
Yeah. I've never owned a pager. I've never had a pager in my life. Still knew what they were.
They were like, it's short messaging and you can send a text or a phone number. And it just went on and on and on. And as it did, I felt older and older and older.
Well, in fairness, I just explained Quantum Leap very similarly. But that was like 30 years ago, not...
Well, yeah, and you did it in a couple of sentences.
Right, we didn't do an animation about... But you'll probably throw up a screenshot or something, right, from Quantum Leap.
Oh, yeah. There'll be Scott Bakula all over the place.
Just in general with characterization, and this is kind of an anime trope I'm finding out, is like magical powers happening, and this is in a different way. This isn't like Okarine's power is fine because we're still learning about it. He's learning about it. For me, that's like a great reveal. He's seeing how it works. He's realizing stuff about his youth, like maybe he's always had it. But Christina is a physicist and does lectures on time travel. And then they start talking about memories. And she says, it's all neuroscience. That's kind of my thing. No, it's not. Physics are your thing. what do you mean neuroscience is your thing? When did this happen? And that felt very like, oh, one of the characters needs to know neuroscience. So, blah, blah. And you have enough characters. You have 1,000 characters in this story that, you know, aren't already spoken for in terms of like, you know, just make part-time girl. Oh, as a hobby, I read neuroscience books, you know, like for Christina to suddenly also not only be a physics time travel expert, but also neuroscience is kind of my thing, was like really jarring for me because it's just not, it's never been her thing. It's never been discussed as her thing, but now it's 100% her thing.
Yeah, some other way versus she can do all of that because the plot needs her to be able to do all of that.
Right. Well, she could say, my father's colleague is a neuroscience scientist. I have some questions about the physics, but I think since it's all electricity, it's physics anyway, and I can figure it out with a little bit of his help.
Right.
You know.
My next one is also about the gender reassignment for Ruka via D-mail. So before Halloween considers that he should not assume Ruka's gender after the D-mail is sent and he moves world lines. However, literally an episode later, he assumes her gender has not changed. He checks, assuming Ruka is still, quote unquote, a dude. And I get it, it was played for laughs, but it was literally just the episode before he knew he shouldn't assume that. So I thought that was a plot hole for sure. And it brings me to a little bit of a tangent I would like to go on, and it's about adult things in anime, sex dynamics in anime. Because from a Western viewpoint, it may at first seem strange, which is okay. But I hope once folks understand the way the dynamic works and how the different roles work, at least between male and female characters in anime, it will not get in the way of enjoying this amazing entertainment. Because I think it's easy for Western sensibilities, especially modern ones, to look at a pervy character like Daru, who's always talking about cat cafes and girls.
Right. Can you say that again in a whisper?
Yeah, and I don't want anyone to miss out because of their prudish ways. Anyway, let's talk about how it works more often than not. And before anyone burns up the comments section, yes, there are always exceptions, right? Exceptions to every rule. I am especially looking at you, redo of healer. So there are exceptions, but more often than not, the boys, especially in shonen, which are made for a teenage boy audience and often popular here in the West, the male characters frequently speak in a pervy way. And that's because they are acting out and speaking the way a typical 15-year-old boy thinks. Because that's who these shows are made to appeal to. And as a reminder, there are anime created to appeal to anyone. It just so happens a lot of shonen are popular here. Merve, you talked about how in entertainment for young people, you want the protagonist to be a couple of years older than your target audience. So speaking to that age group, right? And that this is just an example of that. However, the boys in anime, they blush and they freak out. And frequently you will even witness exploding nosebleeds whenever there's an actual potential intimate encounter with a girl. Whenever a character shows interest, pursues, or even responds to the boy in a romantic way, they shy away basically, or run away, with minds blown and noses bleeding.
Okay, we haven't watched one of those yet, but
you'll see it soon enough, I'm sure.
I believe you.
And it's balanced in that way where the boys say pervy things and demonstrate pervy thoughts. However, the agency is almost always with the girls. The decision whether or not something intimate actually happens. And interestingly, and often, even in the rated mature anime, nothing happens. It does not happen. The boys will say things and the girls will do things because ultimately they're in control, but then nothing comes of it. Again, there's always exceptions, but I'm saying more often than not. And to me, that balances out nicely. An example of this would be Daru saying, "Could you say that in a whisper?" Then the girl character actually whispers it, and his mind is blown, his nose explodes, and he takes off running down the street screaming. End scene. I know that was a big tangent that I just went on, but hopefully, I think it's important. And hopefully, if anyone, especially if you're new to anime, is thrown off by kind of the dynamics here, at least you have some context and you can understand how it works most of the time. So you can get over it, you can get over yourself, and literally just enjoy the anime.
I just thought it was funny. But that actually segues pretty well into my last diss, which is the ages. I have very little idea unless they blatantly say it. You're 17, right? Oh, it was 10 years ago. How old these people, any of them, are. And so sometimes like Ocarine, in my mind, Ocarine's 30. And he's sitting on a bench, and Braun, the landlord downstairs that owns the pawn shop downstairs, is like, "Don't you ever go to class?" I'm like, "Why would he go to class? He's like 30. Is he supposed to be 17?" And Mayori acts like she's like 12, but has like ideas, and we see that 10 years ago, even there's a flashback 10 years ago, she was like 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever. So I don't know how you do that without exposition, like, oh, okay, you're 15 or whatever, but like even Christine, they make mention that she's 17, I think, but she's publishing papers and doing physics speeches that people are going to and taking her seriously. And so it's just a strange thing for me to like, are these little kids, are they teenagers, are they supposed to be in college right now? So it's a little, because I had the thought when Daru didn't go to the meetup, I was like, oh, wouldn't it be strange if he was the dad? But then yeah, I have no idea how old he is. I feel like he's 15.
You are on the right track, though. Let's say he's 15, or let's say he's 18. How would that work?
Well, the time travel.
Exactly. Right, yeah. That's exactly right. Yep, you got it.
Because she's obviously a time traveler, because she knows things that are I know what you're going to do. I know what this is going to be. That's why I was thinking she was Braun's little girl, because they looked alike. So I was thinking that, and they immediately like attached and were like, seemed to have a connection right away.
She's got that job closer to Halloween, and you actually see her signaling to him in the first episode, and he just looks super confused. They're up on the roof.
Right.
But what she doesn't know is who her dad actually is. But yeah, you picked up on that, so nice job. Whenever they say their ages in anime, I'm always like, la la, stop talking, no, don't do it. Because it always breaks the immersion for me, to your point. I'm watching the show and I'm like, you are 40 and old just like me. And he's like, hi, I'm 15. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're 47. But they're always written about 10 years older than they actually are. So a 15-year-old acts 25 or even 45. But the ages are strange. Are we ready to talk about the things we liked? Our favorite things about Steins Gate 8 through 13?
You are. Obviously.
Yeah, hold on. Okay, I felt a burp coming. I didn't want to start talking. I mean, the big thing I like that I talked about earlier is like that rising tension. And I think the plot is the strength of this show. the other thing I really like is the subtle differences when they jump timelines, when they jump world lines. Except until there's like the big jumps, but the little ones, there's an entire timeline where Mayuri doesn't go do 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 whenever she comes on screen or sees anybody.
Wow, that's a good pickup. I did not notice that at all.
And I assume that's intentional, because the timeline right before it, or the world line right before it, she does it incessantly. It's like she keeps doing it. And then there's a world line where she doesn't do it. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. And that's subtle. And there's a world line where they show the building. I think this I might be wrong on, but it seemed like the same building, and the satellite wasn't smashed into it. And then later on they show that building again and the satellite smashed into it. So we see that we're kind of moving through these world lines, and it's like a shuffling of cards, where in this timeline, which is why I think this would be a headache to write, because you'd have to write out, I assume the way I would have to do it is have to write out every single world line. Here's everything that happened in this world line. So now I'm writing, Mayuri from this world line, and now I'm writing her from this world line where she knows this and this and this, and where she knows this and this and this. And so it's just a marvel for me to they pull it off pretty clean. Like I said, there's only a couple times where I see kind of little glitches in the matrix, but overall it's very clean. That plot is definitely the strength of this show.
Yeah, I feel like at minimum it's one where they wrote the beginning, wrote the end, kind of knew the plot devices they wanted to use and backed into it. But what I like to think is that somewhere on this planet there is this huge corkboard with red string and pictures of things and ideas written on post-it notes that connect all of this stuff together. Kind of like a murder mystery. That's what I like to think of as the strategy that they used to put this together. But I can tell you it's very much worth multiple viewings if you enjoy it, because I'm definitely picking up on things I did not the first time watching it. I also really like that these are the episodes where we solidify Hoenn as the hero. You start to feel for the characters more, all the characters, where I felt, of course, the first 7 episodes were more getting to know the characters. I also felt the comedy more in those episodes, and these ones have a more serious tone, which I do like. There's still comedy for sure, but I do like the more serious tone. Even Mayuri goes from do-do-do to some quite emotional moments, impactful moments, serious moments between her and Hoenn, or Okabe, or Ocarine, whichever name you pick. I personally seem to have settled on Hoenn. That's the one I like to use. But I do really like that Mayuri steps forward in these episodes, and you understand her on a more serious level. Then Hoenn like a rock. No. Then Hoenn like a big truck. No. Then Hoenn like a boss solidifies himself as the hero, which is very cool.
I have that written down actually too, the characters. And though I've had some trouble with their names this episode, if you watched the last episode, you will see I am doing far better this time. And I actually wrote the list out. I'm like, I'm going to do it without looking it up. And I wrote a list of the characters because they're starting to really not only solidify, and granted we've spent 13 episodes with them instead of just 7, but they're separating some. In the first 7 episodes, again, we're establishing a lot of things, and we're establishing these characters. I had a lot of trouble with the characters, especially all the characters having M names, and so in multiple names and that sort of thing. And they all have Japanese names. That's very difficult for me. If they were English names, it'd be much easier. Arabic. But seriously, those the characters themselves really started to kind of solidify. Now, Daru, I think, is the weakest character now. I thought he was one of the strongest characters early on, but that's just because he separated himself. He had his own personality, even though it was like pervy, but he had his own thing. He was the hacker, he kind of gets lost in this, I think, in these, because they don't need him to hack anymore. So I think he kind of stays flat as a character, but everyone else like rises up. And again, the like dynamics between Christina and Suzuha kind of having that animosity with each other, and the stuff that comes forward, a little expositionally but forgivable, with like Mayori, how she keeps saying she's Okarin's hostage, and then we find out because she was going to kill herself when her grandmother died, and then she does that. They set it up where she says like, it's silly for me to still be the hostage, and then she gets
a present. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then she gets something. Honestly, I don't know why I'm trying to keep from spoiling that. We're going to have to talk about it in other episodes anyway, and it's just more editing for me. But anyway, I am editor. So I guess I'll just add more work for myself. But I was thinking about the comedy too, and there are a lot of Western comedies where the dialogue and the cadence of the dialogue are very similar to Steins Gate. I thought about Clerks, and I thought about Mallrats, basically anything when Kevin Smith was still good, where the characters speak quickly and breeze through those punchlines. Gilmore Girls is another example.
Yep. And I was even going to mention, sorry, I shouldn't interrupt, but I was even going to mention Gilmore Girls, which is funny because Gilmore Girls is not a show for 40-year-old men, but and I was going to say anything written, and Kevin Smith is not this, but anything written by a playwright usually has important, snappy dialogue. And Gilmore Girls is, and that's why it's so quick and so snappy and even enjoyable, I've heard, for 30, 40-year-old men.
I've also heard that, and I've also enjoyed that. And the last example I have is it's Guy Ritchie. I think he also writes in a similar way, that punchy, quick-witted type of way. And I like that. I like that it's a comedic style in Steins Gate that people in the West can relate to easily. Even Mayuri gets a decent joke about high prices in these episodes. They're in a store, I think it's a grocery store, and she's like, wow, look at their prices. They must be really proud of their stuff. And I thought that was pretty funny. And I was like, wow, Mayuri, you got that joke to land. You go. And it was right before a serious moment where Halloween was thinking about being really sick during Y2K and wondering if that was the beginning of his reading Steiner ability, aka his Mandela effect ability, where he's able to retain memories between world lines. And for anyone that doesn't know, the Y2K was a concern over computers because the year had always been done using 2 digits, and they were concerned that when it went from 99 to 2000, that the computers would explode and that the world would end, and thankfully it did not. None of that happened. But all of this makes me think about the conversation we had about charges. So you have this really good Mayuri joke, in my opinion, her best so far. It lands, I'm laughing, and right after it gets serious. I think I like the charge change where it starts funny and then gets serious versus what we often see, which is serious and then, nope, can't have that. It's joke time. Maybe that's just because Marvel has killed that for me, killed that for many of us, I'm sure. But I'm now much more appreciative of the other way around, the joke to serious than the serious to joke. It just seems like rather than being a charge change, you're telling the audience you can't handle the truth, you can't handle the seriousness, so we're gonna help you out with a joke. So I don't know, I definitely like the other way around better, I think, at this point.
Yeah, they do that. They do it both ways in this. There's a lot of times like Christina and Okarin are having a serious conversation, and then Okarin at the end of it will do, and she'll even point it out, he'll do something ridiculous and she'll say, just when I thought you were a nice guy, you do so you have those. And that's another charge. Even that's a charge from from a negative grief charge to a positive humor charge to a negative anger charge. And those are all different, relatively different charges, but they go positive, negative. And they do that a lot in this show. And I think it's effective. I have the humor is effective as well. Again, the plot is definitely the star of the show, but the characters are very good. So you can see why it ends up on. You could watch this, kind of turn off your brain and have a pretty enjoyable time just watching the characters interact.
We were talking about last episode that you can watch this in a couple of different ways. Or I would recommend, if you enjoy it, multiple different times. There are just so many references. And in fact, there's a Reddit post that has listed many, if not all, of the references. There's a ton on there. And I'll include that info somewhere around here, around this episode. If you're interested into a deep dive into the Steins Gate mythos, from Zelda, Ocarina of Time, the best Zelda, prove me wrong,
Listen!
to Christina calling Hoena Wesley.
Watch out!
That's a Star Trek reference, by the way.
Oh, okay. I wondered if that's what they were talking about, but I was like, that's Western. I don't know.
There are a lot of Western references to other anime, etc. So Christina calls Hoena Wesley, gets embarrassed, and says, "Wherever you think that's from, you're wrong." And Hoena responds with, "Whatever, Madam Next Gen," for Star Trek Next Generation.
Even though Wesley is more of a Deep Space Nine character, but.
And she says, "Just leave it the hell alone." And Hoena responds, "Going too boldly, am I?"
Okay. Yeah.
So anyway, there's a ton of info on the Reddit about the science, about the references. It's a pretty awesome read for anyone who likes Steins Gate. But that's what I have for my favorites list. These were great episodes, and I'm looking forward to discussing the rest of them. Hopefully only once.
Yeah, I've never watched them, so I'm looking forward to watching them. Are we? Yeah.
I mean, blah, 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 bling, 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 blah.
I was gonna say, are we watching all the rest?
Oh, for the next show?
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be split into two more episodes. So
okay,
total
good.
of 4 for the first season of Steins Gate. All right, last section. So, Merve, is there anything else you want anyone else to know about Steins Gate 8 through 13? Did I say that right?
No, I think we've covered it thoroughly.
So, Merve, is there anything else you would like anyone else to know about Steins Gate 8 through 13? All right. Well, thank you for watching or listening. You can find us the following places, probably.
Have you joined us yet? If not, then I'm sorry. I won't be sharing my dinner with you.
The YouTube, the Spotify, the Google, the Apple Podcast, the Podbean, all the associated places from there, Heartthrob Radio, iHeartRadio, Discord. There's probably a link below, maybe.
Yes, join our Discord. The link is in the description. There's a channel for you to ask me writing questions. There's a channel for anime stuff. There's a channel for our channel, etc., so on and so forth.
There's Teespring if you want to support us. You know, the normal places. Just type animation. Where are you? Can I find animation? It's so cool. I want to watch.
Play me some Pippin, man.
Animation. It's so cool. I want to watch. And then it'll come up, I'm sure, in whatever you're in. So thank you for your patronage.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, but you might also just be listening.
Yeah.
Thanks for being yourself.
Thanks for coming by. Yeah, we should have like a suite. We should have a suite.
We do. We have freaking Akame.
No, I mean we should. Oh, we do have a sweet outro. Yeah, I was gonna say. Why are we saying anything?
You know, the English dub voice actress for the acclaimed anime Akame got Kill, who does all of our transitions and outro because that's how legit we are.
It's over for you. You're done. But you'll be back.
Alrighty. Bye then.
Bye. Bye. Thanks again. Yeah.
Super dumb. This was way funnier the first time I read it. So that all get cut. Like boats. Seriously, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. So see you next time. Bye now. Bye now.